Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations. All right, welcome everybody to this week's episode of Star Trek Preservations. Man alive, it has been an awful long time since I have been on this side of the Preservations microphone. I am very excited to be coming to you tonight with what is episode 3 of season 3, an episode tonight called A Speck from the Eye, but we will get more into those details in just a moment. Let's go around the room and introduce our cast. Again, we're going to go low to high rank-wise. Rila, that puts you up first.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lacey Knutson, and I am playing today Narila Nilan, the science officer on the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Rideout. I'm playing Lieutenant Evidian Tanari, the Andorian engineering officer for the Dilamus Christian. And here we have a new security officer for the ship, and he's a Mog, half man, half dog, his own best friend.
Fantastic. So, rubbing behind the ear, and he just kind of... Anyway, Commander Ocean.
Hi, I'm Adam Scaramella, and I portray Commander Ocean Chilzilwer, the Dilamus Christian's Andorian First Officer.
Fantastic. And Captain Tobor.
Hi, everyone. I am Joe Harney, and I am playing Captain Sabian Tobor, the Joint Trill Commanding Officer of the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian, a Saber-class Federation starship.
Excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Like I said, the episode tonight is going to be called A Speck from the Eye. Before I kind of get into the synopsis, anyone want to read any log entries before tonight's show?
Yeah, I'll kick it off as the captain.
All right, I like it.
Captain's log, stardate 59300.68. Following the events on Drovek 3, we've received orders from the Regional Command Center to begin a holodeck training initiative. Per the directive, we are required to engage in mandatory holodeck training. The initiative will evaluate operational readiness, crisis management, and crew cohesion. The program is to be completed in its entirety, with performance metrics transmitted directly to the Regional Command Center for analysis. I have recently assigned personnel amongst the crew post Admiral Pritchard's departure, and will be making sure that all is well with our functioning operations.
Perfect. Thank you, Captain Tobor. As Captain Tobor said in his log entry, you guys have been assigned a holodeck training protocol from Vice Admiral Tovek, who is the acting station head and head of the Regional Operational Command. You are being tasked with completing it so that the ROC can adjudicate your cohesion in the wake of Admiral Pritchard's departure. So we begin tonight with you all in the conference room on the Dilamus Christian, where you are in a video meeting with a Starfleet specialist, Yeoman Barat. He is one of the Vice Admiral's assistants, and he is here to answer questions about the training course or address any concerns. And of course, he's making it very clear that he cannot discuss any of the particulars about the nature nature of the training that you're going to be going through, because you must be heading into it without any foreknowledge of the mission itself. Otherwise, the results would be skewed. Yeoman Barat is also a Vulcan, probably not unlikely to be some sort of relative of the Vice Admirals, because it would be fairly unusual for a specialist to be in such a kind of a prestigious role attached to a Vice Admiral. Read into that what you will. And as he has said, training will be to check the cohesion of the senior staff and your problem solving ability. And yeah, with the change in command and everything, there's obviously going to be some more permanent changes to the command structure in this region. And with the Rutledge Battle Group, he wants to examine everyone's position and what their problem solving is to determine how those personnel shifts should occur going forward. So before he gets into the particulars of the mission and the parameters that you'll be operating under, are there any questions for the yeoman?
I will hold mine till the end.
Fantastic. He'll begin. You will be tasked with overseeing a situation portraying a delicate political situation. We have made up a colony on the edge of former Dominion space. You will be meeting with the colony's governor, Proconsul Cassian, beloved by the people, but some concerns coming from Starfleet intelligence about some ways that he has been interpreting Federation directive. Part of your mission will be to ascertain what is going on with the governor and if there's any sort of political situation developing here that needs to be handled. Obviously, while we are still in the wake of the Dominion War, particularly edge colonies, we want to make sure that they are as secure as possible. Any sort of political instability here should be properly smoothed out. You will be presented in this training with a series of chapters, and then after each chapter, you will meet again with me where you can ask questions of Starfleet intelligence, and he uses air quotes. So I will be your conduit to any information or questions that you may have after each chapter as you present intelligence that you have learned and receive either updates or interpretations thereof. Are there any questions on the parameters of the training?
I have two questions.
Commander
The
Ocean?
first is, where will these holodecks be located? Are they on Aslan Station? Are we using our own?
I would assume that you would use your own on the Christian. Is there any reason why that would not be possible?
Okay. Second question, what else would the briefing for this mission include? Clearly, we would not send a Starfleet ship to a planet and say, figure out what's going on. You mentioned that there are concerns in place. What information would we reasonably have regarding those concerns?
So the concerns revolve around a general attitude which is emerging from Cassian. He, while not being outwardly in violation of Starfleet directives, has certainly been perhaps ignoring the spirit of those directives while adhering to the letter of the directives. There is also a perception that he's amassing perhaps an uncomfortable level of personal power. You will see when you get there, Cassian is exceptionally charismatic. He became the governor of this colony through the will of the people that are there, and there are some reports that maybe some of the people on the colony are uncomfortable with just how much power he is amassing.
Mr. Tenari,
Yes, sir.
any questions?
None from me, sir.
Lieutenant Narilla,
Yes, sir.
questions?
No questions at this time.
I have one more. What will the governor believe our mission is? Are we just patrolling? Are we providing some service?
His interpretation will be that it is some sort of a diplomatic visit from a starship for the festivals. As it is a simulation, he won't doubt your appearance there, and the festival is reasonable enough cover.
Their reaction to the question, I know it's a Vulcan, so it's hard, but can I get a read off of them regarding whether or not, like, it was made up as he went along. I'm just trying to get a sense of how well thought out these scenarios are.
Yeah, that is an exceptionally valid question. Now, what would you like to bid? This would be like a 3 difficulty challenge because he is Vulcan, so he's a little bit more difficult than
Yes.
usual one.
I think I'm going to want to do, let me just double check the handy dandy list. I think I'm going to try to get some insight into what he's doing. If this was a tactical plan, whether it had holes in it or whatnot. So I think it's going to be insight security.
Yep, I like that.
Let's see. We have no momentum.
We have not had any momentum yet, correct?
I'll add a threat to the pool to get the
Sure.
extra die.
Yeah, I'd say it would solely be appropriate for Barat to feel a little interrogated by you. I think that's appropriate.
Wow, hold on. Let's see. That is...
Is this a good wow or a bad wow?
No, it's a good wow.
Okay.
I can re-roll 1. Do I want to? Is the question. No, that's a total of 5 successes because I got a 2, 4, and a 13, which is my target number.
All right. I love it. Okay. So you gain 2 momentum in the pool. Yeah, your feeling is not so much that he was unprepared for your question, but more that as the one who built the scenario, think about you're coming to the position from a little bit of a threatening posture. He's, oh, you're questioning my ability to go ahead and write this. I see. Okay. So as far as the information that he's providing you, you don't feel like he was like making it up on the spot in your assumption. There is a festival that will be happening on the planet a few days within the time after you arrive there. He's more being like dismissive more than anything else. Mr. Tonari?
Actually, I do have a question. Are there any sensitive cultural points we need to be aware of?
What sort of things would you be aware of?
For example, is it an insult to shake hands, or do we need to only eat with our right hand, or something like that? What sort of things are insults to them, or what do we...
This is a multi-species Starfleet colony. This is not a planet of their own species. There are multiple species in here, so you will find every sort of cultural norm among any of the traditional Starfleet species. Captain, you said you had some questions?
My first officer asked most of them, but again, my main question is on scenario timing. I assume you have a diplomatic mission background brief prepared, a cultural, anthropological background, all the stuff I would normally receive prior to this kind of mission.
Certainly, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I assume I will be given a reasonable amount of time to do my necessary preparation, and therefore, what do you think is reasonable, and how long are you expecting the exercise to last?
There is no time limit on the exercise. The point of the exercise is to complete the chapters, not complete the chapters in a certain amount of time. The chapter difficulty itself builds on itself. So as the scenario proceeds, things that happened in previous scenarios will inform the next one. So say you have a run-in with one individual in the first scenario, and then that individual features again in the second scenario. They will remember the run-in for good or for ill, depending on however that is navigated.
Standard adaptive protocol, I assume, right?
Absolutely correct. Yes. And as far as any diplomatic information, a standard diplomatic scenario packet has been transferred to you. You may take your time to peruse it at your leisure.
And then secondarily, is anyone besides the admiral going to be reviewing the scenario results?
So the results will be fed to me directly. I do have a team of other specialists that will be reviewing it. It will be sanitized for information. They may not know necessarily that it is you doing it. There are other ships and other crews which are taking this same scenario. A lot of it may be sanitized for personally identifiable information as we try to go ahead and gather information in the aggregate. There will be some information which does remain personal so that we can evaluate sort of crew expectations and crew performance. And that would be sent to the admiral so that he can evaluate that. But anything that is done in aggregate will be sanitized, and anything which is specifically crew or individual driven will be handled by the vice admiral and presumably his team, but that's above my pay grade, sir.
Fair enough. My question I was trying to drill at, is this being shared with Starfleet Operational Command for a broader overall look, or is this more for the admiral's own, for lack of a better word, peace of mind?
I was directed to draw the training up by Vice Admiral Tovek.
There you go.
That's the best of the information that I would be able to provide you to answer that question.
Excellent. I will look forward to receiving all of the pre-scenario briefing packets you've put together, and then me and my crew will begin the scenario.
Okay. Fantastic. I'll see you at the end of chapter 1.
All right.
Barat out.
So when that goes out, I turn to Lieutenant Narilla. Did you get any sense, any kind of empathic deception? Is he hiding anything from us, Lieutenant?
So I would have been like at least semi-keyed in, Josh. Did I notice anything like that would raise red flags, especially since I'm a little hesitant about the holodeck anyway, because we've had a couple of situations.
Sure. Being a Vulcan, and I'm going to fully admit, I know how this worked in 1E. Is there any difference in the way that the Beta Zeds and the Vulcans interact, with the Vulcan being notoriously unemotional and the Beta Zeds' ability to read their minds?
So generally what it would be like is the Vulcan species trait of Vulcan makes the difficulty to get an emotional read one higher.
One higher. Yeah. Yep. Fair enough then. So then you can certainly go ahead and roll for that. That would be a difficulty 3 challenge also.
Or Josh, as well, if they have the Colinar talent and are like extra unemotional, you could adjust it even higher.
Yeah, no, they're just a standard unemotional Vulcan, not an extra unemotional. Yep.
So would this be like a insight? I'm not really sure.
Yep, I like insight security. That's kind of where I was thinking. Certainly insight security is just as reasonable, unless you've got something else you want to try to bid.
That seems good to me. And did we get some momentum?
We did. Adam gave you 2 momentum, so
Can I use one of those momentum to buy another day?
you may.
Can I chime in here just for a second? If she is doing this, when an ally attempts a task using security, I can spend a momentum to allow them to use my score for the discipline.
Yeah, I'm hot with
And
that.
one of my focuses.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and she's doing the discipline is security, so it becomes a 5. Yes.
Cool. All right, so she spent a momentum for an extra dice, and you're spending a momentum to let her use your score. Making sure.
All right, that did help because one of my rolls was a 15. I would have had missed it by 1, but I think with your addition, it is a success. And I also rolled 2 solid successes, a 7 and an 8.
Fantastic. Okay, you hit your 3 successes. So what you find is that he is being a little secretive about the fact that obviously he doesn't want to reveal too much about what is in the training scenario until you reveal it. You also do get the feeling that while he is answering your questions truthfully, you do feel like there is probably stuff that's not being said. You only rolled the proper number of successes to answer those questions. So
Yeah.
unless there were some way to plug for additional information for it now.
Again, remember, Josh, when you're using the empathy talent, you just get feelings. It's up to the player to interpret them, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that exactly. So what you feel is like he is definitely holding some cards against his chest, but what those cards are is tough to say.
So I also have ESP, but I don't think I'm going to use a threat to ask for more information. I don't know. It feels early to be racking up the threat. But I will relay that information that it feels like he's not giving the whole story. There's something a little off, but I can't place my finger on what that is.
Okay. Well, thank you for the insight, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
I think next steps are to break up the briefing material as they come in. The commander and I will review the diplomatic exercise briefing. Lieutenant Narilla, you focus on the cultural anthropology packet. And then Mr. Tenari, if you could give me some insight into the kind of external geopolitical pressures that could be influencing the diplomatic scenario in nearby star systems. Till we get it, I won't know if Mr. Barat has based this scenario off a specific planet or if it's just Whoville on the edge of Federation space.
Yeah.
Much of a vacuum we're operating in.
I do have a meta question.
Yeah.
Is the scenario just for the 4 of us, or will any of the NPC department heads be taking place?
It is just for senior staff.
Okay.
That would include our acting chief of security, Lieutenant Alana and Dr.
Okay.
New.
If you would like them to attend, then sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can bring them along. That's fine.
That's in general, again, the 6 department heads.
Yep, totally fine. So does that change who you want to work on the various aspects of the diplomatic packet?
I don't think so. I think we're gonna split it up by the reds, the golds, and the blues.
And the golds, yep, yep. I like it. I like it. All right, the 3 teams that are working on different sets of the packet, I'll let you all make like a difficulty 2 challenge to go ahead and see if you get some advantages and what sort of information and the depth of the information that you're able to glean from these packets. So, Tobor, you said you and Ocean are going to start with the overall diplomatic protocol?
I think so. I think I'm going to use my insight and command is 14. I don't know what yours is, Adam.
Insight in command is 12.
All right, so why don't you assist me,
Yep, I like it.
and then we'll go from there. We are currently out of momentum, I believe.
Correct.
What's my difficulty, Josh?
2. And if you
All right.
get 1 success, you'll get some information.
And can the ship assist in its like computerized research?
Because this is a totally isolated situation, I'm going
Right.
to say no for right now.
Okay. I will note that in my report that because this is an isolated training incident, resources not normally available to a Starfleet captain were not used. Please evaluate in the according isolated
Sure.
manner, right?
Yeah. No, when they evaluate you as a crew member, they will note that you did not have access to the ship. Yes, that's correct. Yep.
I'm getting this sense already, so I'm gonna be documenting all my I's and crossing all my T's.
Covering your ass with paper. Got it. Yep. Yep.
Like it's a Christmas present.
You're right.
Yep. All right, I got a 15 and a 6, so I have 1 success.
Okay.
And so Adam,
With the assist. Yep.
I rolled a 10, so that's 1.
And fantastic. Okay, excellent. So you're asking basically diplomatic information, right? What information in particular are you trying to ascertain? What would you like to know? Let's start there.
so we could do it one of 2 ways, Josh. We could create a trait called like diplomatic briefing. Then we can use it as a -1 difficulty at some point.
Yep. I think that would be fantastic. The trait will be diplomatic understanding of the Calliope colony. And that's Kalliope.
Of course, I can't spell it normally. It's a training scenario.
Yeah. Actually, there's a very specific reason why it was spelled that way.
Oh, okay then.
And perhaps that's part of what you have seen in the diplomatic. Tobor maybe said to himself, oh, I can't even spell it normally. And that is an acceptable spelling in certain circumstances. So next, let's go to, Tanari, you're handling which part?
I believe that was the security situation around the planet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Captain?
right. And I imagine you'd be working with Alana in that situation.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Same thing then. So let's
Dave gets to role play with himself.
This is a family show. So who wants to roll for Alana?
I think Alana will actually take the lead on this.
Okay. I like it.
I think maybe insight security.
Yeah. I mean,
be the
that's very
appropriate-
much. Yep. This is an insight security sort of mission, apparently. Who wants to roll for Alana?
I can.
I like it.
All right, so your target number is 13.
All right. Difficulty, Josh? 2
Two
again?
2 again. Yep.
All right.
And
So,
graduated in that way. So if you only get 1 success, you'll get some information. And if you get 2, then you'll get the full trait.
10 and a 16 for Alana.
So that's 1 success.
And then, Dave, do you want to roll?
Roll for yourself. Yeah.
'Cause
Yep. So I'm going to assist. I would like to make a bid for reason engineering because I would like to assist by using the computer to try to get as much as I can to sift the information out of the packet.
So in this case where you're not using the computer for an extra die, just to go ahead, you're basically just looking to go ahead and change the discipline. That's your goal?
Yeah, so I can get the
Okay.
assist die.
I will allow that in this situation. I just want to be consistent.
That is a 4,
Okay.
which is. Will you allow my computer's focus to come in, or is that a little too much on the?
That's a step too far. Yeah. You were
Okay, so 1
basically,
success.
yeah, you were feeding the information into a word processing engine, asking
Right.
for bullet points. You weren't actually doing heavy duty programming.
No
So
problem. So one success.
fantastic. So you also have a trait, let's call it Calliope security understanding. In the same situation as the diplomatic information, it'll be something that you can go ahead and bid for a -1 through the mission here at some point. So basically creating yourself an advantage to be used later. But just for flavor and for fun, as you're reading through the security information, the colony is not based off of a for real colony. It is totally a fiction, as it says in here. It is on the edge of Federation space. As I said, it is a melting pot colony with a variety of different Starfleet species, but almost strictly Starfleet species. There doesn't seem to be an awful lot of people that are there that are not from Starfleet recognized colonies. And the colony has a singular titular head. Again, that's Cassian. And it all flows down from him. So there doesn't seem to be much of a parliamentary structure or anything like that. Maybe some. He does have a series of advisors that you would see in the security packet. And the training briefing does say that you should expect or be able to interact with them throughout the mission as needed. So that's one thing there. But that it is very much modeled as a singular titular head overseeing the colony. In
And what,
terms, yeah, and other questions or other specific information that you would want.
what do we know about Cassian?
What you know about Cassian is that he is the charismatic head of this colony. He was made governor by an overwhelming vote of the people. He is, for the most part, loved and respected among the people that live in the colony. He is opinionated, he is loud, and that he seems to have the colony's best interest at heart, especially if you ask him.
They always do.
What species is he? Because that may affect our approach to him.
Let's see. Cassian is human.
Okay.
He is silver-haired, olive-skinned. He looks very regal. The kind of his official state photograph has him dressed in dark crimson robes with golden trim. In the briefing packet, there are examples of some of his speeches. He is tremendously well-spoken. He speaks with a tremendous, a William Jennings Bryant sort of oratory skill, poetic and philosophical flair. You can understand why people flock to him.
Is there anything? It's a simulated scenario, but if he is doing things that are not in keeping with the Federation ideals or whatnot, I would like to just do a cursory scan to see anything jumps out at me. Okay, if this guy was smuggling stuff in, these are the things that he would do, or these are the kinds of people that they would use on this sort of outpost or planet or whatnot.
Sure. So are you looking specifically for the smuggling angle, or are you looking more for general ne'er-do-wellery?
I'm thinking more along the lines of just the cursory glance that it's from my background.
Sure.
So it's like I'm used to seeing, okay, this port's here, this port's here.
Yep.
Just those sort of ideas of, okay, yeah, if I was in charge of this place, I would need to look at X.
Yep. Fair enough. Given your background, why don't you give me a 1 difficulty check to go ahead and see if you can piece together some information?
Okay, let's see. Call that reason and security.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And I do have a focus in criminal organizations.
Yep. I like it.
That would be 1 success.
Okay, perfect. So with your success, again, you were assigned to the diplomatic packet, but obviously there's more information in there. So you're looking for the general hallmarks of corruption type exercise, and that is either missing from the packet, as in you don't see anything in there that would suggest, oh, he's doing something illegal and being really good at hiding it.
Okay.
So you don't see that in the packet. That's not mentioned in there. Your background is saying one of 2 things. Either that's part of what you're going to be uncovering during the training, or that's not the angle. It's one of those 2 things.
I'd be leaning towards the latter only because it's one of those things that if it was an angle that they wanted to include, there might be some threads.
They would give you hallmarks. That is a perfectly valid conclusion based on what you're seeing in there. All right, Rila, you and Dr. New then checking the kind of anthropological information. So same bit as before. You get a 2 difficulty challenge to see if you can get yourself the trait. And Tobor, you rolled last time for the assistance, so I need either Tanari or Ocean to roll for the assistance on this one, please.
And this
And
would
then,
be,
really, do you want her to take the lead, or are you going to take Dr. New? Sorry, do you want Dr. New to take the lead, or do you want to take the lead?
I would probably take the lead. And would this be reason science would be okay?
Yeah, I
Insight
think reason science is fine.
either way.
Yep. Okay. All right, why don't you roll the assist on this one? I think Ocean rolled the assist on his own challenge. And all right, you rolled the assist this time.
So my target number is 15. And then I rolled a 3, and then I missed on the second die.
Okay, so we have 1.
Also, Lacey, do you have a focus that may apply, like anthropology or something?
I have forensic science and xenobiology, which I think are the closest, but
Not really, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so 1 success
I
from
do
Narila.
feel like I need to revisit my focuses, and you had mentioned that there is an appropriate time to do that, but I don't remember when it was.
Probably after reputation breakthroughs happen.
Okay.
Right, Tanari, your assist?
All right, so what am I rolling for Dr. New? Probably reason science.
Or insight science?
Yeah, either one's fine. All right.
Joe, do you have the character sheet for the doctor?
I don't, Josh does.
I'm pulling it up. All right, 14.
Okay, 15.
Okay, so that's fine. You didn't see... Yes, Tober?
I was just saying, this could be a good opportunity to succeed with a cost.
So we can certainly go ahead and do that. Do you want to push the success?
How does this work?
So basically, I could give you basically the same trait that they've been bidding against, right?
Yeah.
Where they now have a trait that they can bid to give themselves a -1 on a difficulty on a challenge throughout the mission. I can give you the same thing, but I also give myself one that I can use to go ahead and raise the difficulty for free, is the way that I would play that. So
let's do it. How could this go wrong?
exactly, yeah. So we will give you then understanding of Calliope's anthropology. All right. So you have a -1, I have a +1. And yeah, so are there specific questions and specific information that you would like to know about the colony?
Let me think. So it's anthropology, and he said that it's a Starfleet mix.
Yeah. Yep. It's a mix of Starfleet species. Yep. Let me give you this one, for example, and we'll kind of see where this goes. As I was talking about with Tanari, this is like a top-down sort of structure where there's like the singular titular head and very little kind of parliamentary practice in the governing of the colony. That's fairly unusual among Starfleet colonies. Normally, there's more than a dude that is in control of how that colony functions and how it's directing. So that by itself makes Calliope a little unusual. Thing 1. Also, there's definitely some like sniffs of a potential like cult of personality angle around Cassian because he's that singular titular head. As you're reading through the historical documents, the Calliope has been governed or controlled, or lowercase c, lowercase g kind of governed, controlled in a variety of different ways. And then since Cassian has taken control, he has very much vaulted to be this forefront sort of guy. So it's not so much that there is like no parliamentary interference. It's more like, for the most part, he became so popular that people are like, whatever, he's doing the right things and we all love him, so let's just keep letting him do the things.
What about any like resistance groups throughout the times? Has there been consistent groups or singular groups that kind of risen up, that kind of thing?
There certainly have. There have been, anytime you have that like singular, at least the way that it's written about in like the official diplomatic wires that are sent from Calliope, it's very much anytime you've got someone of Cassian's kind of swagger or Cassian's kind of general ethos, there are always people that want to rebel against it. But the rebellion never seems to be super pronounced. It's not like there are like colony-wide protests marching on the royal palace or whatever like that. They are very much local and isolated and then minimized is probably the way that it would say so in the paperwork.
Okay.
So one thing which you did see in there is that There is a movement for colony unity of thought on some level. They work really hard to make sure that the colony is heading in a direction that everyone in the colony kind of feels comfortable with. So that's kind of like where some of the protests have come about, right? Where, hey, wait a minute, if we disagree with you, you're rounding us up, that sort of thing. But those kind of things are being very much suppressed as not true. Let's see. Ocean, I'm reading your question. Can we assume the briefings about Cassian's history past the no obvious missing time periods or nothing before this date sniff test? Can you elaborate what you mean about that?
If you watch a lot of the intrigue shows or whatnot, as they do a background check on the person, it's obvious that, okay, there's missing time in their history, or this is a fabricated identity. Are we assuming that when we look at this stuff, it's reasonable to assume that this person is not what he appears to be? Like, there's nothing jumps out from his personnel record that says, well, he was on this planet, but that doesn't make any sense because X, Y, those kind of things. It's
I
just,
see.
it looks reasonable, is what I want to just make sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Very much reasonable. In the short biography that you're given about Cassian, his last name is Talaro. He was born on Colony during the Dominion War. He was not military. He very much kept a low profile, or his family kept a fairly low profile during the Dominion War. And then in the wake of the Dominion War, he rocketed up in political channels, amassing the sort of support and following that he has now.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Further questions? Anything else that you guys would like to go ahead and research or like to go ahead and pull apart in these briefings?
Yeah, the really quick one I have is like on the speeches and all that stuff that was presented as part of the diplomatic thing. I want to run that against the historical databases and like figure out this speech is 82% Con Union Sung and 13% Hitler, and
Yeah.
kind of who seems to be his like philosophical underpinnings that his like philosophies are based on.
Sure, yeah. His philosophy and in his speeches seem to be based on like emancipation methodology, right? So it's one of the quotes from one of his speeches was, "Would you bind free men with change of caution? You call it protection, I call it a shroud over the sun." That sort of, let us all be free, let us proceed through life as we are supposed to proceed towards glorious purpose. There's certainly some kind of overtures in there. The rhetoric can certainly be turned in a way that seems, again, kind of cult of personality-esque, where he's very much presenting himself as a figurehead of the people, rise up with me and we will achieve greater heights sort of speeches.
Messianic savior type stuff.
Yeah, messianic, yeah. And that's actually the best way to go ahead and put it. Yes. Any other questions before you begin?
I think we need to get deeper in before, so I think I'm good at
Fair
this
enough.
point.
Yep.
And then just a meta question, like
Of course.
where is the Dilamus Christian?
Where would you like the Dilamus Christian to be?
Because last we left our intrepid crew, we were likely returning from Dovrek 3.
Yep.
If we were going out, and it makes more sense for us to do a patrol loop, we could be out on patrol.
You can be on patrol, basically taking your time to get from Dovrek back to the station. You're in some intergalactic parking lot somewhere with the dome light on.
Got it.
And Yomarat did say that this is divided up into several smaller chapters, so it'll be like a scene, and then you'll meet with him, debrief a little bit, scene, meet with him, blah, 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 blah. What did you learn? How did you learn it? What's that now?
We'll see about that.
Exactly right, yeah. Remember, the point of the training is for you guys to figure out the scenario that the training is talking about, right? So he will be very curious to see what sort of things, and that'll be part of it too, is he'll be very curious to go ahead and see what sort of things you learn and what sort of things you share that you learned and what sort of conclusions you're drawing.
I have a question. This is a very meta question,
Okay.
but in a holo simulation, is empathy and ESP work similarly, or does it not?
That's a really good question, because you're going to be dealing with simulated individuals, so probably not.
I will be noting that in my report that unfortunately one of my primary resources, my Beta Z science officer, was unable to utilize her telepathic abilities to the benefit of the mission.
Yep. Noted. I appreciate that. The second note in your report, exactly. So that ends Act 1, which, by the way, Act 1 titled, All Things Are Ready If Our Mind Be It. Act 2, The Good We Oft Might Win, will begin next. Now, talk to me a little bit about the difficulties that the Dilamus Christian holodecks have had. What sort of technological fun could be expecting here?
I would like to point out that I'm going to be looking to have crewman Wenkern, who is in the security group. She is versed in cybersecurity. I want to make sure that any packages that are sent over do not have any nefarious extras in them.
Okay.
And if need be, I think having crewman Dree, who has skill set in holomatrix generation and computer programming, basically having the two of them ensure they're paying attention to the scenario from an administrative standpoint.
Yeah, I got it. So you want somebody watching the performance of the holodeck on the outside
Yes,
to go ahead
make
and
sure it
that you
doesn't
guys
start doing things like, because we've never had that happen before on this ship.
Yeah,
Leonika did mention something about a sword a
yeah, I was
rapier
going
or
to say,
something. Yeah.
I think our science officer is probably a better expert on the holodeck going crazy.
Yeah, but she's going to be inside.
Yeah.
But yes, we've had at one point the holodeck accidentally activate the Epsilon protocols.
Yes, I do remember that. Yep.
And then at one point, while we were in Aslan Station, something in the ship interfered with the holodeck and caused solid holograms to start appearing all over the ship.
All right. Just for funsies, then, I would like someone to go ahead and we'll just make it just a difficulty 1 challenge to engage the holodeck and make sure that the emitters are working properly. This is some sciencey role, probably engineering, Tanari. So I suspect that this would probably be your department. But
We know what you're looking for.
right, exactly, yeah, yeah. I'm looking for a threat, or complications. Either one. I'm not picky.
So this will be reason engineering, I'm assuming.
I like it.
Is this something I could assist with?
How skilled are you with holodeck stuff? You're generally good at science.
I've gotten a lot of hands-on experience with the holodeck since
You know what?
Miss Christian.
A fair point, then. I will let you assist.
Okay, I do not have a focus in holodecks.
No, but you're an engineer. That's
Yeah, but I'm just saying for the role purpose in terms of determining criticals.
sure.
So I will take procedural compliance and go ahead and get 1 success on that. And then I rolled 2, so that means I have 2 successes to start with.
All right. And then Marila's assistance.
Would I be rolling a reason engineering?
Yeah, that's
or
fine.
science?
Reason engineering would be best, but
Is it meet it or beat it or under it?
Equal to or under.
equal to or under. Yep.
Okay, success. Barely.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. So you guys rolled 3 successes. You only needed the 1. From all intents and purposes, it looks like the emitters and everything are working properly on the holodeck. I will close the document of holodeck complications for now.
For now.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys step into the holodeck and you are transported to a wonderfully warm, sunny scene. The building that you are outside is white, polished marble. There are what look like on Earth would be palm trees, high, ornate towers, arched colonnades, very like neo-Roman architecture, holographic banners that are fluttering in the breeze that seem to have Cassian's image and the colony's sigil on them. And you are out in front of a building that says at the top that it is the governor's palace. And there is an attendant outside. He's also wearing the red robes with gold trim that you saw in the official state image of Governor Cassian. And he walks up to you. Greetings and welcome to Calliope. I hear that you have audience with our esteemed governor.
Josh, I would like to point one thing out character-wise.
Of course.
My character does have a slight problem with agoraphobia.
Oh, okay. So
it's
height.
Up to you when that comes in.
How has that played out previously? Is it agoraphobia is tight spaces, right?
No.
Open spaces. Oh, okay. Yep.
Is it a trait or is it like, or it could be something you could like activate? It's not like an always on, or how
It's
bad it is.
Leonika and I talked about it, and it's a side effect of the value a starship is where I belong.
Yep.
It was basically a side effect of my character having been raised on a starship. And it's the time we were on shore leave, it raised a couple.
So maybe a +1 on the complication range rather than a full -1 difficulty negative trait.
Something like that, yes.
Yep. I think that's appropriate. And we'll apply that when you're outside. If you're inside any of the buildings, I won't knock you for it. All right. Cool. Again, so the attendant walks up to you, says, "Yes, I'm understanding that you have an audience with Governor Cassian today."
Indeed, I am Captain Sabian Tobor. These are my senior officers, Commander Chizilrer, Dr. New, my chief engineer, Lieutenant Tanari, my head of security, Lieutenant Alana, and my chief science officer, Lieutenant Nilan.
Fabulous. Follow me and we can go to his conference room. He's awaiting you. And
Are we? I'm sorry, this is my first time here on Calliope. Are we underdressed for the situation?
Are you comfortable the way that you are?
We would not wish to give offense to the governor.
No offense necessary. Such things do not matter so much to the governor. As long as you are comfortable, we are comfortable, Captain.
Oh, very good then. And lead on.
And he leads in. The inside of the governor's mansion is exceptionally posh. Sonari, while you're feeling better than you were outside, obviously the inside of the governor's mansion is a fairly cavernous space. There are like ornate columns, there are velvet covered chaises with people draped upon them eating grapes. It seems like very luxurious and easygoing within here. It's also very nicely properly air conditioned, although maybe not to what Andorians would prefer, but at least it's cooler than it was outside. And the attendant leads you to a magnificent escalator that leads up to the second floor, slightly less cavernous than the first floor, but still open concept. And you hear a voice that was familiar from the diplomatic packets that were sent over, which is the voice of Governor Cassian. And he is talking about the festival that is coming up in a couple of days, and seems to be working on preparations with someone who would be doing such a thing, like where the dais should be for the festival day proclamation, how large the dais needs to be for the number of people that are going to be there, all that sort of thing. And he seems to be speaking in a way which it's not commanding, it's not demanding. It is very much like you guys are all like you're all moved yourselves as, oh wow, this is I want to go ahead and build the plinths for this guy. He's very charismatic. And when he sees you come around the corner, Captain, he catches eyes with you at first and nods his head and smiles as he's continuing to go ahead and talk with the person in front of him. And after he's done, he comes over, arms wide, standing a respectful distance away, and says, "My guests have arrived. Welcome to Calliope. I am Governor Cassian. It is a pleasure to meet you all. My attendant has told me that we should have expected representatives from the stars beyond to our little colony here, and we are honored by your presence."
I do a very traditional trill gesture of greeting. And thank you for the warm reception, Governor. I'm Captain Sabian Tobor of the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian. And these are my senior officers. Commander Chizilrer is my executive officer. Dr. New is my chief medical officer. Lieutenant Tanari is my chief engineer. And Lieutenant Nilan here is my chief science officer. Fortunately, I left my principal flight control officer on the ship in command while we are here, accepting your amazingly accommodating hospitality, sir.
Certainly somebody must pilot the ship and keep it from falling out of the sky. Certainly understandable. My only regret is that I cannot meet all of them, but perhaps another day we will.
We can arrange a tour of the ship if you wish.
That sounds fantastic. I'm sure that I would love to see more of the ship than I have been able to see in the official wires that were sent over before meeting you all. Please join me for You Must Be Parched. Have you eaten? We would love to share Calliope's bounty with you while you are here.
We would be honored to partake in your bounty.
Yeah, and he snaps his fingers, and attendants open a door to a large room with large buffet-style table, and he goes down the buffet, lifting up tray tops and he can tell you every meal and where every component of those meals came from. As the pork and kale with the leek sauce, and the leeks were grown 40 miles from here. I know the farmer, and the pork was raised. It seems very proud of the fact that everything on the buffet table is from here on Calliope.
I kind of lean over to Tenari. I'm like, Brazig would be greener than an Orion at this spread.
Yes, he would.
So I hear that you are here to partake in the festivities. What can I tell you about the festivities? What were you able to read in your diplomatic information, and what further information can I provide you?
You saved me the trouble of asking the question, because the question was, what should I know that wasn't in my official briefing?
Sure, certainly. So the festival itself is a celebration of the incorporation of Calliope. Obviously, in the wake of the Dominion War, Starfleet established us here. And so once on our rotation around our planet star, we celebrate the incorporation of our colony here. And it is traditional for somebody in the leadership to present a proclamation, grand speech at such a thing commemorating the event. So I am very much looking forward to my opportunity this year to go ahead and provide such a speech. We've had other very notable dignitaries throughout the year provide them, but this year I felt that it was important for me to go ahead and make the proclamation myself. It's important to me that we let the universe as a whole and the galaxy know that we here on Calliope, we speak with a single voice, and we speak for our own glory, and we speak for all of the things that are important to all the residents here on Calliope. We speak with singular voice.
I do the eyebrow quirk of the like, okay.
Yeah, sure.
So my first goal for this kind of first phase is just rapport building.
Yep.
So
I like it. Would you like to bid traits to do?
yeah, of course, I'm going to go with my own presence and command, probably opposed to his presence and command.
Yep, I would say absolutely opposed to presence and command. And in fact, I'm going to spend 2 threat to increase the complication range for you. So
Also, okay.
because he's very cognizant of being subtly moved around, I guess is more. So this is more complicated than usual.
So I'm not going to do initiate a full-on social conflict with him yet, but as an opposed roll, he would roll first to set my difficulty.
Yep, I like it. So
Under the new second edition way to do things.
Fantastic. Okay.
Makes much more sense.
It does. I'll spend 1 more threat then to go ahead and get a 3rd die. There was a 7 and a 16 and a 4. So 2 successes.
And does he have a focus that would make that 4 a crit?
Hold, please. You're trying to like build rapport with him. Try to basically like not ingratiate yourself into him, but it's just like building rapport, like professional to professional.
Yeah, I'm going to use diplomacy as my focus.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he'll use diplomacy also then. So that'll be a total of 3 successes.
What are we at on our momentum currently?
2 momentum.
Okay, perfect. So I'll use 1 for a 3rd die.
Yep, and with the 2 threat spend, so that's a complication range of 18. Just remember.
Gotcha. 13, 12, 14, so 3 successes.
And we said 3, so perfect. Yeah, you definitely get the feeling that there's like some diplomatic chess going on between you two. He appreciates the diplomatic effort while at the same time is guarded.
I'm aware that you're aware that I'm aware that you're aware of my move.
Exactly, yes.
I clearly can't choose the one in front of me.
Yeah. Which one's got the iocane powder in it? Exactly. It's not so much the diplomatic ingratiating. It's more just, oh, okay, we understand each other here.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling that there's a certain respect that comes from him from that he recognizes that you are as good at the game as he is on some level.
Very good. So he has a definite sense that we aren't just here for the party.
Exactly. Yeah. You have a feeling that he had a sense that you weren't here for the party from the get-go anyway. And
that's what I meant.
And this is now solidified that, oh no, you're for sure not just here for the party. You are here for the party, but maybe not the party.
The real part, the after party.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the VIP room in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're here for a little bit of tailgating, and you're here for the big game, and maybe you'll be here for drinks afterwards. So I'm not sure we can say that with any more kind of like veiled illusions. If we can say that any more complicated, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, so you get the feeling very much like that. Aha, I see. What's everybody else doing in this situation? Narila, what are you keying in on in this room?
So I know empathy isn't like necessarily a good option for this, but I am kind of like looking for any sort of abnormalities in the room in that or maybe just stand out as extra strange in the way he's interacting
Sure. Yeah.
aside from the stuff that you've like blatantly.
Yeah. Right, yeah, I've just said. Yeah. So even though you may not be able to go ahead and use like ESP because he's a hologram, however, you are skilled at empathy. You're still beta set. You still know how empathy works. So I would be happy to go ahead and let you make a challenge to go ahead and read into that a little bit. I would say, are you checking him or like the room as a whole?
I would probably spend some time on him specifically and
Mhm.
then also a little bit of time looking at the room.
Yep. So you're trying to read his motivations more than anything else. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
And maybe things that might key in to be important for ways we could influence him.
Yeah. I like it. You're going to have a difficulty 1 challenge to do so. And he rolled a complication on my challenge roll here. So basically, you have a free momentum to spend either for additional information after the fact or an additional die now if you'd like.
Okay. So it's a 1. I am going to risk it with my 2 dice and then I'm going to hope
I
for
like it.
more
Yep.
information.
I like it.
I hope I don't regret that. Okay. So this would be insight command again.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
All right. So I do make a success.
Okay.
So
Just
both my rolls were like,
a dangerous close to failure. Yes.
yeah, a
Okay.
little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of like his motivation, in particular as he was going through the buffet spread, something that you keyed in on was how insistent he was that everything that was on that plate came from here. It was very much like a look at what we did. And as you started like piecing together other things that you started to pick up on the air that it wasn't so much that he was proud of the fact that they were from here and not from other places. It was that they don't need to be from other places because we can provide for ourselves. There's a sense of independence there that isn't overt. It was the more that you thought about it, like, oh, I see what he's saying here. He's not showing off. He is,
Almost gloating.
yeah.
Okay.
Would you like to spend that momentum to go further, or do you want to bank it?
Yeah, I do want to spend
Okay.
that momentum to
Yeah.
go for there.
Okay. Give me another D20 roll, just like naked. Just give me a D20 roll and tell me what you got.
All right. I got a 3.
A 3. That's a fantastic roll. Yeah. It you're primed for like this idea, right? That's oh, he's like gloating about the fact. And as he keeps talking, you notice that he keeps making veiled references to how independent the colony is. And how like they're not used to starship visitors. We don't even have a space dock for other starships. We've made do with sort of temporary structures, but really like we see so few visitors on the outside. We are really off on our own here, aren't we? And do we like it that way, sort of thing. So there's this like sense of isolationist independence, right?
Like they're intentionally cutting the threads of other outside influences.
They may not be intentionally doing it, but they're also not stopping it from happening. You're not sure which way that goes, but it's certainly you're on the track here. He does also continue to weave in references, again, that sense of gloating about the colony's independence and with this grand proclamation that he's going to be making and how much he's looking forward to the speech and everything like that. So,
Okay, interesting.
how about you, Tanari? What are you keying in on right now?
All right, Tanari's got a couple things going on. First of all, his conspiracy radar is going off
Sure. Yeah.
on two
I'll
on
give you
two
that one for
levels.
free.
You've got this populist figure here going on about all this independent stuff,
Yeah.
and so obviously there's more going on here than meets the eye. But then you've got the second level going on, which is the people who are telling us to do this have shown that they're out to get us already. And so
Ooh.
Tanari is wondering when the twist in the scenario is going to come in that's going to try to make us all look bad.
Ah, I like where Tanari is going here. Tell me more.
I mean, ever since the mock trial, the kangaroo court that we went through, he knows that there are people in Starfleet who don't like us and want to take us, and specifically Captain Tobor, down. And he's wondering if this is going to be another case like that. And then when we were first meeting with the Rutledge Battle Group, where they're going to try to besmirch our reputation. So wondering if this is like one of those holodeck programs that has a little thing programmed in to go wrong. And so he's wondering when that's going to hit.
Okay. I would like you, please, to make a 2 difficulty challenge against that presumption. And tell me what you get.
All right, what should I be rolling?
This definitely is like an insight sort of thing. You're trying to see the strings on the puppet, I think is right. So
It's
like
sounding
insight command,
insight security.
insight security. I can give you insight security. I was thinking insight command, but insight security I think I can give you.
You said 3 difficulty?
2 difficulty. Yep.
2 difficulty. Then let me buy an extra dice with a threat.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's very appropriate in this case. 'Cause you're starting to sniff around the edges of a potential conspiracy here.
Difficulty, I'm rolling against a 12. And will this allow my pastime to kick in so that it can act as
Focus. What's I'm assuming your pastime is conspiracy theories?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be very appropriate in this situation.
That's 1 success.
You got 1 success, so you didn't get enough to go ahead and get the trait that may help you. But with your 1 success, I will say this. I like where Tanari is thinking. We should re-engage this conversation later.
Okay.
So it's like he doesn't have enough data yet. We're too early in the scenario
Yeah,
to see the matrix.
exactly.
Alana, on the other hand,
Yes.
is at edge. She's getting serious Goldacott vibes from Cassian. Because you walked in, you had his face everywhere.
Yeah.
And her working off the Bajoran trait, he acts nicer.
Yeah.
But she's getting that whole kind of narcissist vibe off of him.
I am going to let her retroactively assist you on that previous check because very specific reason. In the training package, one thing that Tanari has just noticed, and maybe it was like one of those things that like as he kind of looked around the room, like him and Alana like locked eyes or something on this, in the training documentation, something that you had seen at the time and it didn't pick up on it, is that Cassian normally does not refer to himself as governor. He refers to himself as proconsul. Very much Cardassian vibes with the kind of like Roman. And now the architecture makes sense. You're picking up what she's putting down just as you shot that look across the room. Somebody roll me an assistance die to see if we can get Tanari into that 2nd success.
And her insight security is 13.
Who wants to roll?
I can go ahead and do that.
Have at it, Tober.
Ooh, a 2.
Fantastic. Is she also conspiracy theory?
No, she's a secondary character. She doesn't have a past time.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. All right. So you got your 2nd success. Nari, for the rest of tonight, much like we did earlier where you got the trait on the security understanding, I'm giving you another biddable trait, which is to go ahead and help lower a difficulty. That is basically, let's call it the game is afoot.
Okay.
Your conspiracy theory antenna are peaking. You are piecing together that there is a game here, but you're not totally sure what it is just yet. But that was a very interesting deduction by Tanari. And thank you to Alana there also for that little bit of reassurance that Tanari needed to like, oh, wait, no, she sees it too. All right. Ocean, how about you, sir? What are you keying in on in this scenario here?
Trying to read the room. So everybody's been focused on Cassian.
Yes.
And I'm more interested in the other people that were around here, because you mentioned that they are setting up for the festival. There's people coming in and they're showing him these things and he's commenting on them.
Yes.
And there's hustle and bustle. So I'm trying to figure out, where's the vibe here? Are they nervous around us? Are they nervous around him? Are there conflicts that are going on amongst them? What's the general vibe of this group?
The kind of superficial answer there is that the vibe is normal. You're not reading any sort of outward anxiety. People don't seem nervous around him. They seem to be happy to be in service to him. He doesn't seem nervous. He seems very much in his element. And even as you picked up on the subtle, like, diplomatic joust that he was doing with Tobor there, he acknowledged that, yep, this is a diplomatic game that we are playing here. Let's see who's in the room here for funsies. Give me two 20-sided die rolls. Tell me what they are, but you don't have to like bid anything. I'm just trying to tell who's in the room.
I got a 5 and an 18.
Fantastic. You will see someone else that's like milling about the room is a Bajoran who is in military garb, broad-shouldered with short cropped hair, a gnarly scar over his nose. He is wearing a resistance earring. And they are actually talking to a Vulcan who is in Starfleet uniform. They have pips of a lieutenant, and again, sharp features, dark hair, abnormally tight braid. Like, her hair is very tightly braided, wearing a Starfleet uniform with Science Division colors.
Okay. The other thing that I'd be curious about is anyone taking notice of us. Is there anybody here that is attempting to subtly keep an eye on us?
Yeah. If you want to notice that, I want you to go ahead and give me like a 1 difficulty kind of insighty type challenge to determine that.
Okay.
So.
Insight security on that would be 13. And I think I could probably leverage the clandestine operative focus.
I like it.
And I rolled a 1 and a 6, so that is 3 successes.
3 successes. Okay, so you guys will gain 2 momentum, first of all, which is always helpful. Okay, as you guys are talking to Cassian, I'm going to get to the direct answer to your question in a minute here. Actually, let me do this in reverse order. Also floating around the room is a Cardassian. He is wearing like a military style uniform, faded Cardassian insignia over his chest, but it's very like worn. It's un-Cardassian, like, kind of like haphazardly put on his uniform sort of thing. Alana probably does not care for the fact that there's a Cardassian here, especially one that used to be in the military. And he definitely seems to be curious that new Starfleet have arrived on set here. And so he's scoping you out, trying to go ahead and read a little bit about what's going on here. And as you are like doing that overview, as you're like scanning, another enters the room. Her garb is very like sleek military, as opposed to like Cardassian with like big poofy vesty type things. She's Betazod. As she walks in, she does the, "Oh, Governor, I didn't realize that you had company. I can come back at another time." And Cassian insists, "No, Lisa, please come meet our new friends." And he introduces her as Alyssa Renor, and that she is his second in command, a trusted advisor who I listen to far less than I should. She is talking about the celebration that's coming up in a couple of days and how she has reviewed some intelligence briefings about some protests that are coming up in some of the remote parts of the colony, and basically saying that she doesn't think that there's anything really to be worried about with them. But she says, "Do we really think that this is the year to be going this all out? I recognize that there have been a lot of things put in place for this year's celebration, but do you think that it is too much? Should we balance it somehow?" And Cassian very much no. The people demand spectacle. The people demand a grand celebration. If not this year, then when? Kind of the first time in his presence that you've sensed anyone that's like a little reticent.
I'll dive in on that. And what spectacle are you planning, Governor? It's going to be so big, so grand.
Sure. The procession of lanterns this year comes at just the right time of year. The harvest is in peak. The animals have all been fattened through the winter, and we are ready for grand festivities, grand feasts throughout the colony. There will be fireworks, and there will be parades, and there will be celebrations in every home with every family. It's going to be a spectacle unlike any other. Yeah. We have spared no expense on our side. I'm sure you saw the banners, and the buildings have all been cleaned and polished. When other planets look up into the sky, we want them to see us instead of our sun.
No, I did notice the banners. They were very flattering.
He smiles wryly at that, says, "The insignia of the colony is quite striking."
I continue sipping my wine.
All right. Any other questions that you have or any other challenges that you would like to make in this bit?
I don't want to push him too hard at this stage, but I make the comment about the protests, and then I'm like, I understand political hyperbole, everyone, and there's always someone, but I look around at this grandeur. What do they possibly have to protest against?
You must understand, Captain, my heart is here in Calliope. I have been born here, I was raised here, my blood is the blood of Calliope, and I have every intention to make sure that everybody in this sector of the galaxy understands how special and wonderful we are here. There are sometimes people whose maybe thoughts aren't with Calliope and maybe are not so sure that those are the goals that we should be aiming towards. I think that Calliope should be on the lips of every admiral in Starfleet. We should be as special as Risa. We should be as special as every other wonderful location. And that sort of thing takes money and time and skilled diplomacy, which I am sure if you do not understand the other two, you certainly understand that one.
Indeed. And I'm sure your citizens share similar grander goals, but maybe not necessarily on the finer points of diplomatic strategy. I'm very curious, what opportunities have you taken to engage with them and see that their perspective is taken into account? And I'm always fascinated by the governmental structures of the various member worlds of the Federation, because there are so many different paths to prosperity.
Certainly.
Each world in the Federation has chosen its own slightly different path. And I must admit, the diplomatic briefing portion that I was given seems to paint the situation here on Calliope as a little black and white, but I'm sure there's far more nuance in day to day operations and
Oh,
civic engagement.
of course, we thrive on nuance, Captain. We have taken great pains to understand what our harshest critics say about us. We encourage them to sit down with members of the administration and relay their concerns to us. And we, of course, take great efforts to assuage those fears and let them know really what it is that we're trying to do here. Educate them, so to speak, on the grand plans. Because what we find is that most of the opposition is really just rooted in, as you said, they don't understand the finer points. And so educating them properly in that grand plan has always been a priority of mine.
And have you taken the opportunity on some of your more vocal opponents to incorporate them into your administration? A plurality of ideas.
As I said, with minimal exceptions. Anybody that learns what our grand plan is, once they are educated in the ways of what we are trying to do here, we very rarely see resistance after that. Sure, I can appreciate that merely having people around me who agree with me all the time is, while on some level contradictory to progress, we have the best plan. And so, therefore, what's
I
disagree
look
with?
forward to you educating me on it so that my resistance can melt away.
I'm
I
sure.
smile, my presence 12, command 5, I see you, wannabe dictator.
What?
Smile.
Yeah. And when you make that comment, he smiles and just says, "Quite." So the conversation goes on, and eventually he does the customatic. I have other things to attend to. There are things that a grand governorship requires. And while I would love to go ahead and sit here feasting on grape leaves and the finest braised fowl, unfortunately,
Duty calls. Your
duty
people
calls.
demand your attention to all your grand plans. Of
Exactly.
course, we shall not keep you. Now, is it governor or is it proconsul? I didn't quite get that from the briefing.
I always styled myself as proconsul. I am the governor.
Ah, I see. I will
Uh,
add that nuance to Starfleet's understanding.
It is an homage. Here on the edge of Dominion space, obviously there was significant influence from many of the Dominion species, probably none more so than the Cardassians, and it's an homage. They left us this beautiful structure. It's a little, we lean into it, shall we say.
An interesting path to prosperity.
Indeed.
Very well, proconsul.
Yep.
We will not take up any more of your time. We shall enjoy the hospitality of your lovely colony as you prepare for the Festival of Lanterns.
Lisa offers to escort you out of the building. Cassian waves off and disappears into an antechamber somewhere.
And I begin my subtle interrogation of the second in command.
You won't need to right now, because as you guys are walking out, she very subtly to you, Captain Tobor, says, I would speak with you in private at some point in the near future.
Would you like a tour of my
For
ship?
the festival. I think a tour of your ship would be absolutely appropriate.
Fantastic. Have your yeoman contact mine, and we shall arrange it forthwith.
All right. And with that, the first chapter in the holodeck closes. You find yourself in the holodeck grid with an incoming message from Yeoman Barat.
I tell Arvik, patch it through to the conference room. We're going to head up there.